Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Carrow Road. Internationals over, Premier League football back, and the sun is shining, which is very pleasant. It's probably a little bit warmer than you'd expect at the moment, but I've got a coat just in case. Joined by Paddy Davitt at Carrow Road. Pad, let's bring you in nice and early. I can see Daniel Farker going through his pre-match media just down in front of us on the touchline in front of the City stand. What are you, and again, minute left, so I'm probably going to have to cut across you, but what are you expecting team-wise today? Are you expecting any changes to be made?
Unlikely, Connor. I mean, I didn't do the pressure, obviously, yesterday. You boys were in it, so you would have had a better sense from what Daniel was saying, but my take on it, once he'd given a sort of rundown of who's sort of not trained fully, didn't sound to me like a man who's looking to shuffle too much. Mainly Matthias Norman. Obviously, he didn't join up with Norway, so there must have been a question mark against his participation this weekend. But the fact that he's back in training since middle of the week, such an important player now in that middle three, if it's going to still be the same shape. So he was the only one I thought maybe could be a doubt. Good news if Campbell's available as well, plus Jolis. But for me, could be proved wrong very swiftly. But I would expect it to be pretty similar to the 11 who.
Yeah, I will cut
across pads. It needs to be a similar level of performance with a bit more added attacking relish because there's no doubt Brighton are probably a step up. Yeah, go on.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an unchanged team as we kind of predicted a little bit. So a 3-5-2 for Norwich City today. The lineup like this: Tim Krul in goal, Kabak, Hanley and Gibson the back three, Aarons and Yanulis the wing backs on either side. Midfield three of Norman Leesmalu and Kenny McLean, with Timu Pukki and Josh Sargent leading the line for Norwich City this afternoon. Their subs bench: Angus Gunn, Andrew Omabamadele, Brandon Williams, Lucas Rupp, Billy Gilmore, Kieran Dowell, Milo Rashica, Adam Ida and Christos Scholis. So no Todd Campbell in that match day squad again, which probably a little bit of a concern given what we heard from Daniel yesterday about his slight knock. But there you go. That's the Norwich City team, unchanged from the 0-0 draw against Burnley a couple of weeks ago. I'll just try and find the Brighton 11 for you because I'm sure that will have dropped, and here it is. They've got Sanchez in goal, Cucurella, Dunk, Morpay, Trossard, Gross, Lallana, Moder, Duffy, Byrne and Veltman. Their subs bench: Steele, Lamptey, Connolly, Bissouma, McAllister, Rapweni, March, Locadia and Roberts. So Pad, let's throw that to you, and I guess the big point really is that if we still have Pad with us, which I'm a little bit doubtful we will, so drop him out for just a moment, but there you go. Norwich City unchanged compared to that game 2 weeks ago at Turf Moor. And I can already see a little bit of reaction from Alex, who has immediately come out and said no creativity there. And I suppose it is going to be an issue. But as we said, myself and Dave Freezer on our preview show last night, just because who sat next to me, just because you start in a certain formation in a certain way, great time in that, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to end in that formation and playing that way. And Norwich will have creative options on the bench this afternoon. Obviously, a slight concern that Todd Campbell isn't involved. And of course, I'm sure that will be one of the questions that Pad does put to Daniel Farker after the game. Once we can speak to him, we should have the team sheets just arriving here. Thank you very much. And there you go. You can see it just there in all its glory, the two respective teams. And it's an interesting one because there were some people calling for Billy Gilmore to be reinstated into the Norwich City team. I got the impression as soon as Daniel Farker had to answer that question that probably wasn't going to be something that happened. Milo Rashica as well has been nursing a slight knock this week, but is on the bench. Christos Scholis as well. Adam Ida amongst the subs. Josh Sargent gets another go. It wasn't particularly probably the best outing for him at Turf Moor 2 weeks ago, but he does get an opportunity to amend that in front of a home crowd against a Brighton side who have started very well. I guess the big news for them is that Bissouma doesn't start, but maybe understandable given the international the stories over the international break and whatnot. But they go with Jacob Mulder in midfield with Lallana and Pascal Gross. They're playing a back three essentially of Dunk, Duffy and Byrne. Very solid, very tall back three. Veltman as left wing back, Cucurella as right wing back, midfield three of Gross, Lallana and Moder, and a front two of Trossard and Morpay. They're of course sixth in the Premier League. They've had a very bright start to life in the Premier League. 2 draws in the last 2 games against Crystal Palace and Arsenal before coming into this one, though. So Graham Potter will be keen to amend that. I think they've got pretty tough fixtures coming up as well. I want to say they've got Manchester City and Liverpool, which which will be very tough. They've got Manchester City and then a round of 16 tie against Leicester before travelling to Liverpool. So yeah, they will be keen to take the pressure off those fixtures. Of course, Norwich City after this one go to Stamford Bridge to face Chelsea. I don't even know where Paddy's gone particularly, but hopefully we'll get him back very soon. If not, we will look to wrap this up in not so long. Matthias Norman does make it say, here we go. Hopefully he's back in the room. We'll wait for him to come in. There we go, Paddy. We've got hold of you. I'm sure you heard the team.
That's not a good omen, Connor. Good omen, though, is it? I've had to move from my usual vantage point.
Yeah. Well, if they win, then we know to keep you there, right? That's the way it goes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna do a bit of talking before I go inevitably again into the ether. I'm down in the snake pit, so we need these boys to be loud and proud today, don't we? But yeah, unchanged. Just give us a thumbs up, Connor. You did say unchanged, didn't you, for Norwich? Yeah. So not a huge surprise, is it really? And like I say, ultimately for me, it's can we be as in Norwich defensively resolute as they were at Burnley 2 weeks or so ago, but just adding that added punch, because I think Brighton, you look at 4 wins out of their opening league games, that's a pretty impressive start. So that tells me they're a very cohesive unit, both with and without the ball, and I don't think it'll be enough today just to try and, as they did with Burnley, frustrate them. I think Brighton will pose different problems, and Norwich need to really try and test Brighton going the other way. And feels like a big afternoon for Sargent for me today, picking out one individual. He's had a bit of an extended run now alongside the GOAT, who has had a really personal level anyway, memorable international period going away and becoming Finland's top goal scorer. So he'll be brimful of confidence. He's the only man who's scored for Norwich in the Premier League this season thus far. But, we keep getting told, notably by Daniel himself, that this could be the future. Sargent could be the future. Pookie's not going to go on forever. And I know he's only getting to grips with the Premier League and Norwich as a club and his teammates, obviously, but he does need to show a little bit more for me in terms of a threat in the box. I don't think it's enough just to say he occupies defenders and he creates more space for Timu, and there's something there in terms of a partnership. I think where Norwich are now, we're into the season now. It's not enough to keep harping back to pre-season and all those issues and bedding in new players, a lot of whom, Sargent included, arrived late relatively in the transfer window. That's a given. But now, a little bit like he talked about with Rashica yesterday in the press conference, now we need to start seeing real productivity from these guys, because ultimately it's going to need that if it's going to be different this time around. And Norwich are not just going to be sort of residually competitive, but actually can have enough about them to pick up results, and with that points, and with that hopefully a prolonged attempt to stay in this division. So for me today, if I'm picking out one man, I'd like to see Josh Sargent, really offering that goal threat in the final third, and principally in the opposition box, because for me it's not enough just to say he's he's almost somebody who's just going to run and put a shift in. I think we need a little bit more in terms of quality.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't really see you, Pad, but we can hear you, and that's the main thing. It's all good. Hopefully, you can hear us all right. Todd Cantwell, I was speaking a little bit about him before you rejoined us. Daniel Farker said that he had the potential to be involved today. He was certainly fit enough after a slight issue in the international break. Fitness-wise, obviously, he's been out for a few weeks because of personal reasons. Doesn't make the matchday squad today.
That's probably a good thing. I can hear you, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, good. But quite interesting, isn't it, that Todd isn't in the matchday squad, considering obviously what Daniel said yesterday?
Yeah, sorry, you just broke up a little bit there, Connor. But following your earlier thread, talking about Todd Cantwell, and yeah, it's just a bit of fresh frustration on top of, for him particularly, I'm sure he'd have been really keen to hit the ground running in the Premier League, following on from, overall a very influential, period in last season's title win, albeit, there were phases then when he wasn't quite, notably at the start of the season, him and Emmy, not quite the the shoe-in that he later became. And we all go back to 2 seasons ago at this level, around about this time of the season, where he really looked, or even then, at that early stage of his development, a Premier League player. You know, he was weighing in. We just talked there about Sargent and receipts to a degree, winning goals and assists. Well, he was weighing in with that. And you just thought 2 years on, 2 years more experience, had a lot of things to deal with on and off the pitch, speculation, that he'd really come into this season and almost be one of Norwich's main creative influences. And for various reasons, it hasn't happened. You know, he's had some personal reasons why he's not been involved. He's had a few injuries now since coming back into training. And Daniel's obviously made the call that he's not quite in the right shape to be in the 20. I know he said the 18, so the 20 today. So he just has to keep his head down, keep working, keep training, stay fit, stay healthy. And you just hope that he will go on to have a major impact in Norwich's Premier League season, because I think it's going to need his quality in a lot of these games, which, if Norwich are competitive without the ball, how do they cause a threat at the other end? And there's no doubt Todd Cantwell, fully focused, fully part of the 11, he is one of the players you would be looking to really make the difference at the top end of the pitch. So, yeah, not to be today, but hopefully that's more of a precautionary element on Daniel's part, and he's looking at the games ahead and maybe just thinking another match cycle where just not involved, train fully going into Chelsea, and then, you know, if you're Daniel, it's all about bringing him back when he feels he's ready, and he clearly doesn't feel he's ready because he's not in the 20 today.
Lovely stuff, Pad. Thank you very much. We persevered. We got there in the end. Thank you all very much for watching Pinkham.com. Of course, the place to go. We've got a live blog from my colleague Dave Freezer. Also, the analysis and reaction after the game as well. The flags are back out in the Barclay. The sun is shining. Let's hope Norwich City can make it overtime lucky this afternoon against Brighton and Hove Albion. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.